understand I got a lot on my mind, a lot on my chest. That's why.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Lloyd Jones with Midnight Comics and your host for the Indie Breakdown, the show where we break down your favorite indie comic book characters' power stats and abilities and get them ready for an indie versus matchup. So, we went back to, or returned to form, if you would. So, when we first started the group, we didn't have a database, we didn't have, the cards, we didn't have all of that. It was fan vote and judge determination. So we kind of went back to that form just temporarily here, just to get some activity going, get back to the norm. But this is what I hope the exhibition matches and all that other stuff will end up being here. Hold on just a second because I need to share this into the group. One sec. Boom. So lots of good conversation happening in regards to these matches. All right. Round one tournament verdict. All right. Boom. I have missed, and I think I might have said this last time. I have missed just kind of going live and hanging out and stuff like that. Of course, last week we talked about the tiering system, and we'll be back with the actual power stat system. But today, as stated at the beginning, we are going to be talking about the matchups. The matchups that we have taking place in the group right now. In case you guys don't know or you're watching from the Midnight Comics channel or what have you, we are running a tournament, if you would, of characters that did not have to necessarily be in the database or anything of that nature. Just characters overall that are in the group that are interested in being part of, right? Throwing their hat into the game, so on and so forth. So, what I want to do, can I do? Share, and then, come on, baby. I'm going to show on stream. Boom. So, we are going to save this matchup for last because there was a lot more comments, a lot more going on as it related to that. So we'll stand by. We'll stand by for that matchup. But yeah. Anyway, so what we're going to do, and we're going to keep it to the round one matches. I think, yeah, this is like match 3 of the. Well, actually, I think all of these. Hold on, let me go to my doc. Actually, just go back here. So the matches that we're going to be talking about are all of these round one situations. Now, if it just posted today, we'll give it some time here. But we're going to start from the god tier characters here. So, like I said, we are going to give Heartline Menace and Detridium. We're going to wait until the end to discuss those. But the matches that we'll be talking about today is Jago or Gago. I don't know which way we're pronouncing it here. But we got Gago versus Lion King, or more specifically, Judah's Lion King. I know there was some concern on whether or not that was going to get anybody in trouble in regards to Disney and all of that. I can assure you that us posting it as such is not going to get you in trouble. We can promise you that. So no worries there. I do hope that you managed to drop some power stats and abilities for the characters as we go into the discussion. Next up, after that, we have Hurricane and Solar, which we will probably give a little bit of extra time. Maybe a verdict will go up tomorrow, but we're still going to give our thoughts in regards to it. And then there's Gaia versus Blitz, which Blitz dropped out pretty early, so Gaia is going to be moving forward. So if there's any initial determination down here, and I will be sure to update this accordingly, but Gaia is moving forward in the tournament, no contest. So we're going to start with Gago versus Judah's Lion King. So we're going to head on back over there. Oh, and the other matches, because there is a street tier element to this as well. Hold on just a second. Let me. I'm sorry, what? I want to be able to catch any potential comments or anything. All right, there we go. So, so the next match is on the lower tier, right? So the first one is like God tier. This one is like the lower tier per se. We have Grave versus Funet, Funet, however you say that, Funet. Um, so we'll talk about that. We have Sledge versus Black Bat. We have the Kaiser versus Omen and Bolt versus Matrix. So, what I will say again is what we'll probably end up doing is only focusing on the matchups that are on the left because of those are the first two matches that dropped, and there was actual time for the creators to discuss what their characters can do. So on both of them, we'll do Grave versus Fournette, Sledge versus Black Bat, and then on the God tier side, we will be discussing Heartline Menace versus Atridian, as well as Gago versus Lion King. And again, for those that don't know, Blitz did drop out today, so Gaia will be moving forward in this matchup. So, let me double check something here. I want to make sure that the live is appearing properly. And then we'll also go over the fan votes, who all voted for who, so on and so forth. All that jazz. All right, we got a couple people in here. Welcome, 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 welcome. You guys haven't missed too terribly much, but feel free to put your thoughts on who you guys think would win these indie versus matchups. Again, we kind of return to form with these at the moment, right? Because ideally, when we open the database back up, the bulk of people that have characters, the bulk of the folks that want to participate and be part of, they will submit their characters, we'll have them on the database, and we'll have a lot more to work with when it comes to the matches, and it makes it less work for you guys. So you guys don't have to consistently have to post the characters and remind everybody about what your characters' power stats and abilities are and what it is they can do. Instead, it'll all be there for potential fans and all of those that are participating in the audience, if you would, to see. So, one second. All right. All right. Big shout out to Dre. Dre be behind the scenes getting it in, y'all. Y'all just don't know. So, we'll start with the God tier. Let's go ahead. We're going to start here. Gago versus Chenadu Atlas versus Lion King by Super Faction Universe Heroic. So we're going to look at what they've said in the comments, see if we can carve out any power stats and abilities, and then determine who wins this matchup. Not sure if the everyone tag worked. Not sure if all right. Yeah, I tried doing everyone tag, so if that's how you got here, welcome. I'm trying to see if anybody else is able to pop up. So what we're gonna do again, we're gonna go through these comments here first for Gago versus Lion King, or rather Judah's Lion King here. See what power stats and abilities were dropped, and of course the big thing is I want to see the best explanation win, right? So that is major to me because again, I want to see you guys take each other's characters into account. I want to see you guys see if everybody's paying attention to what everybody's got going on in regards to their stories and stuff. So not to belabor a point, let's dive in. So I'm sure you guys can still see my screen. So match 2, again, we're going to go back and behold, I have arrived. Welcome. What's going on, Dre? So we're going to save Atridian and Heartline for last because that is going to be the big ticket, the main event, if you would, for this matchup, for this for round 1 of the tournament here. We're only going to stick with the characters on the left-hand side of the tournament bracket. So if you guys remember, of course, there was Heartline Menace, there was Atridian, there was Gago versus Judah's Lion King, and then on the lower tier side, not God tier, if you would, so the high tier, low tier tickets, if you would, there was Grave versus Fournette and Black Bat versus Sledge. Okay, so those are the 4 matches we're going to go over today, again, with the Atridian versus Heartline one being the main event. So let's dive in. So, of course, we have Gago by Chenadu Atlas Lion King by Super Bastion Universe Heroic. Location for all of these matches are going to be the Precipice, a map created by Ahmad, who is another Ahmad Kumasi, who is a member of the group. So shouts out to him as well. So fan vote and best explanation wins. Fan vote is just popularity vote. Let's see what the people thought based on looks and what they heard. And then of course, best explanation, judge vote, judge determination, my thoughts. I will give that after I go through all the rest of these here. You must take the time. It's a big thing for me. I need you guys to take the time to understand each other's abilities and take them into account in your explanation. So, did they do that here? What kind of information are we going to carve out from this match? Let's check it out. So, I know the first couple comments here were more concerned about copyright, trademark, that type of situation. Again, guys, well, if the name is that close, we probably shouldn't have used it. But Disney has the trademark for the Lion King. Disney's the Lion King, right? Like that's there's no character called Lion King. And so we actually dive into that a bit in our public domain course. Again, we're not, giving legal advice or anything of that nature, but with characters like Batman and Superman about to enter the public domain, but DC has them copywritten, right? Trademarked, right? The name's trademarked. What do you do? Right? And it's one of those situations where you have to understand that no, you can't say Batman on the cover, but you can call him Batman and Bruce Wayne all throughout the interior of the book. Right? So stay the conversation again when it comes to your character, no worries. Now again, not a lawyer, not in legal, not giving legal advice, stuff like that. But us putting Lion King to shorten it up because their full name wasn't going to fit in the bracket, it's not going to get you in trouble. I promise you're okay. So just wanted to clear the air on that. I know there was some back and forth here. So we're going to move past this section here. And Chenadu is the first to respond as it relates to powers. So what does he got? Believed fact as we know it. Dark matter is believed to play a vital role in the formation and evolution of galaxies and larger structures in the universe, acting as a kind of scaffolding for the visible universe. Gago creates and controls dark matter. Nice. His dark matter infused biology makes him indestructible. Nice. He is faster than light speed. He is capable of destroying a planet easily, as seen in Chapter 1 of his comic book series. To start this battle, all right, I'm already liking this. To start this battle, he first unleashes his Entropy Halo, passive ability, an indomitable aura that destabilizes his opponents all through the fight. Lion King's sense will be filled with doubt and uncertainty all through this battle, leading him to make mistakes. I dig that. I do see a link by Super Bastion, Baxton, whatever. So we'll click on that in a second. But one last comment by Chenadu says Gago uses expansion surge, which is dark energy, emits entropy waves that accelerate decay, age, and spatial distortion of Judah's Lion King. Okay, let's take a look at what this link gets us. All right, this takes us to a post of the Lion King. I'm going to share that tab instead. It's a representation of the true line of Judah's return. He does not heroics or villainy or government. Carrying a very small fraction of Christ, the returning king's power and the ferocity of righteousness, indignation, the mindset of gladiator with Herculean feats and strength, the love for battle to bring relentless correction. He is a representation of the Lion of Judah in battle mode in the earth. A powerhouse to be reckoned with. His roar can level mountains, mountain ranges, and more when scriptures are added. He is angry at how this world has treated God's planet. The heroics known as the greatest of the mightiest. The sensational superforce, especially the team leader Jonathan Plan, is a celestial, miraculous godsend. Okay. So that said a lot, but I didn't get a lot from that. So what can we pull from this in regards to being able to fight back against Gago or Jago? He's got the mindset of a gladiator, right? So he's a fighter, right? So he's not going to be just swinging his weight around, that kind of situation. He's got Herculean feats and strength, which off rip, when you have a character like Gago. Gosh, if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, forgive me. Um, but when you have a character that's manipulating dark matter and dark energy, Herculean feats are kind of, you know what I mean? Several tiers like below that. In my opinion, right? When you have somebody that's able to level mountains versus able to easily destroy planets, so you add your weight class, right? And then you have the passive ability like Entropy, Halo, Indomitable Aura that destabilizes opponent, right? Somebody that's able to accelerate decay, age something. Yeah, there's nothing from what we got here that could protect him from that. Now, one can argue if he gets his powers from God, right? You have scriptures and stuff like that in there. There's plenty of argument in there that says he should be able to do that. He could potentially defend against that if scriptures are added and all of that. But in an all-out, no holds bar, um, everybody's coming in, not necessarily bloodlusted because we don't know the mindsets, whether or not these characters are heroes or anything like that of that nature. Just a fullness of one's own innate strength. Gago easy victory. Aurora that can level mountains again. You're talking about somebody that could destroy planets. Somebody that's going to be able to decay this character with low difficulty. So unfortunately, in this match, it's slick a mismatch, if I'm being completely honest. But again, we kind of went into this randomly. We had the god tier characters and the lower tier characters, which even that, with characters that I was unfamiliar with, it was kind of a toss up, just in case. We'll see that next time with Ben Wan's character, the Kaiser versus Spiff Nation's Omen character. I'm not sure what Kaiser can do at all. Much like Lion King, I wasn't sure what Judah's Lion King could do. So, again, with his connection to God, what have you, or potential connection with God, he could sit at a league above the rest, right? But just because, say, the Spectre has a direct connection to God does not make him the ultimate character by default. There are caveats to that. So, unfortunately, for Judah's Lion King, I personally am going to have to give that to Gago. So, in the background, I'll also be editing the bracket. So when we finally do the live for the other two characters, um, I'll just end up. Oh, come on. Let's duplicate. Yeah. Oh no, it's being difficult now. But there we go. Goodness gracious. Yeah. So when we do the other ones, I just want to have the bracket all up and ready to go for when that takes place. So Horizon. All right. So yeah, that's an easy victory there, in my opinion. Let me know if y'all agree with me on that or not. While I am, as my father would say, fiddle farting around with this. Oh, come on. All right. There we go. All right. Boom. So that's updated. So next up, we're going to move to the lower tier character. And again, the big ticket item for sure is going to be Heartline Menace versus Atrinian. We'll get there. Because I did see, if he can't breathe in space, Gago could just chuck him into space. Exactly. Right. But again, so this is the importance right here of when you decide to participate in these matches, to give us the intel to actually be able to dive a little deeper. But not only that, right? We want to hear those explanations. We want to know what all the character can do. Again, we're not asking for spoilers, right? But if your character is able to manipulate dark matter and dark energy, I can't imagine that expressing or explaining their power set is going to spoil a story. So that's a wrap there. We may have a guest that jumps on, a very familiar face that we haven't seen on the live streams in a minute. So it's going to be awesome to have him on here. Stay tuned for that. But yeah, so it's very important. Again, we're asking for these explanations that will allow you guys to express how you think and give us an idea of how you write stories, right? You would tell us how your ideal situation with the information provided would be for your character to come out on top, right? So if it's, I imagine, right, with his connection to God, right? Maybe he'd be able to sense energies, right? Maybe he'd be able to sense, have a natural sense any malicious intent or any kind of anything, right? Um, and then he'd be able to move accordingly, right? Maybe some kind of divine sense, something of that nature, where he'd be able to do his best to not necessarily acclimate to what Gago is doing, but kind of make those assumptions as to what he needs to avoid and how he needs to move. Now, again, there's nothing in here that shows that he's able to use spatial manipulation, talk about Judah's Lion King, but with that connection to the God of the universe, maybe, right? So being able to explain what more your character could do, what all they could do, that's up to you, right? And so if you need an example as to what I mean or what I'm hoping for, well, we have blog posts on midnightcomics.org with our previous matches that we did, namely Delta Dogs versus Black Bow. We did um, Avora Lee versus Jupiter Man, and then most recently we did Imani Williams versus Merce, right? Where it's taking these characters based on everything that we've learned from the creators, everything that we've learned from reading their books, and said, all right, well, what makes sense personality-wise? What makes sense in all of these different aspects of these characters? How can I write the best possible outcome for my character? And if you can't, and the other character wins, whatever, right? But the idea is you guys check out each other's stories, support one another if possible, and then again, come up with that best explanation. Give us an idea of your type of storytelling and how your character can overcome whatever particular scenario they may be in. So we're gonna move right along. I said that like 3 times. We're gonna move right along, and I just kept rambling. Let us move on to Grave versus Funet. This is gonna be a good one. I think there's plenty of comments on this one. It was 13. All right. So, oops. The popularity vote for that one doesn't match. So crazy enough, the popularity vote went to Judah's Lion King. Excuse me. It went to Judah's Lion King with 10 votes versus Gago's 7. So nice. All right. Next up, like I said, we have Grave versus Funnet. This one is by Dre. Grave is by Dre Burke, and Funnet is by Anthony Mormon. So, again, all these matches are taking place on the precipice. There is no outside help, just like the previous one. Fan vote we'll look at in a second. And then, of course, again, as stated previously, our hope is that you guys take the time to understand each other's abilities and take them into account in your explanations. Best explanation wins. And so, kind of by default, the last match, Gago's going to win because he actually put an explanation. So, this is going to be good because I think both of y'all put a good bit of intel. All right. So, popularity vote, Grave took the cake. 16 more votes altogether. So Grave takes it popularity vote wise, but let's go ahead and take a look at what Dre says about the character of Grave. So we've got Derek Carnahan, aka Grave, age 37, nationality white. His height is 6'1", weight 215 pounds. Powers and abilities. Here we go, guys. Enhanced strength, speed, and reflexes. Capable of jumping 3.5 stories. He's able to run at speeds of 55 miles per hour, 75 if bloodlusted. Capable of tearing through brick walls. Resistant to mind control. Can place a curse mark on any weapon or object that can hurt the supernatural or affect supernatural items or elements. He can see spirits, apparitions, and astral projections. He can hurt them as well. He's a master in armed and unarmed combat. He's proficient in all weapons and firearms, master tactician, and strategist due to extensive special forces training and CIA training. Okay, bet. Where was I? Training and CIA training. Expert swimmer. He has a curse that bonds his soul and mind to Hold on, let me go back. There's a curse that bonds his soul and mind to Mexican cartel leader that he killed. Wait a second, maybe I'm reading that wrong. Maybe it's a curse that bonds his soul and mind. Okay, the Mexican cartel leader that he killed allows him to heal from all forms of wounds, regardless of damage. Okay, and again, maybe I was reading that wrong. Clarify for me when you can, if you can, at the moment, Trey. And again, maybe I'm just reading it wrong. So he has dual minds. Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, it reads just fine. There's a curse that bonds his soul and mind to a Mexican cartel leader that he killed, and this allows him to heal from all forms of wounds regardless of damage. So he has a dual mind, his and Juan Reyes, aka Malvado. Reyes' side, he's extremely rich. He's a master of disguise, master marksman, expert with throwing knives, computer hacker, math genius, expert in Bulgaria. I think I said that right. Speaks 15 languages and can act on his own in a capacity. He's able to touch things, but only 10 meters in all directions from Derek. Can punch people or grab them or items as well, or drain their astral essence, aka the soul, and leave beings in a comatose state. Any being he kills is trapped by Malvado. Okay, that's tough. He carries a wide variety of weapons, two 12-inch serrated blades behind his lower back, two chrome Desert Eagles, one on each leg. It's called Dawn and Dusk, and an M4 with a 203 grenade launcher on his back. God! And a bat with nails in it and chrome brass knuckles. Okay, he is equipped, armed to the teeth, as they say. All right, now we have Finette, Miss Foreman. All right. Uh, Grave is stacked, right? Grave is insane. So let's see what he's got here. So he's 20, black, height 6'2", weight 230. Powers and abilities: enhanced strength, stronger when in a berserk state, speed and reflexes, expert tactician, run at speeds of 35 miles per hour, 85 when he's in berserk, can punch through a brick wall when normal, demolish a brick wall when using his axe, cleave a room in half with a great sword, demolish a bank vault when in berserk mode, can also dual wield when in berserk mode. Hold on. Strength wise, it sounded a little more impressive, but because yeah, that's brick wall. Brick wall versus a vault wall is a. Did that mess up the live? No, we're good. 3, 2, yeah, we're good. All right, so okay, yeah, we're solid. Sorry, I got a phone call at the same time, so yeah, that was that. Yeah, that back to back might have thrown off the audio or something. All right, so demolish a bank vault when in berserk. So they're the same strength. They're both able to break brick walls until we talk about berserk mode, where he's able to demolish a bank vault. Can also dual wield when in berserk mode. Hit me when you can. Okay, bet. He was trained by Chloe of the Gauntlet, Viking wolves, and he's able to stand toe to toe with the strongest of them. He was not only trained in the form of battle, but also in the strategy of war. Fournette carries the double-sided axe of Kevlar. Kevlar? Valar. And the great sword of Frict. I'm botching these names. Both are royal weapons crafted by the best of the best, Galhund blacksmiths. Weakness: the more his berserk is used, the less control he has. All right. Dre asks, is Finette half orc or ogre? I see actual like tooth, and for the looks of it, he has to get close to Grave to hit him, which with his abilities is going to be hard. And even if he does, Grave has the skills and weapons to take him out. Anthony responds that it's true that Fournette is a close fighter. I would say it would come down to who is a better tactician. Fournette will turn it into a game of chess instead of a pure brawl. Fournette is not part orc or ogre. The last 7 humans had the ability to adapt to their surroundings or where they are raised, which for Fournette are Viking wolves. It only appears once and at puberty. Okay. More Mitch says always bet on black. Samuel Lewis says, at face value, I'd say Fournette. Say Fournette has the advantage given raw power and the amount of physical damage he can take. However, with his weapons, Grave has the ability to inflict damage from a greater distance, and whether he can inflict enough to impair Fournette is in question. Fournette is overall faster, but his use of bladed weapons versus a grenade launcher and twin Desert Eagles does put him at a slight disadvantage, as well as the metaphysical aspects of Graves' abilities. All things considered, in my opinion, Fournette has a 45% chance via KO. And then several others throw in, they say Graves. Lucas wanted to know how to participate in this tournament. Well, not this one. This one is over. But whenever we do these, definitely stay tuned and jump in accordingly. But then we have a big issue is that, hold on. All right. So, lastly, we have a big issue. Is Dre says a big issue is he can get. Can he get close? Grave is strong enough to compete with him, while Berserk stage. Fournette should be a bit stronger. That I won't lie. Tearing apart a bank vault is tough. Now Grave could do it, but I guarantee it won't be as fast as I'm guessing. Fournette can do it, being he's more beastly, but his weapons means he has to get close, which once he is within 10 meters, that means the spirit that resides in Grave can now fight as well. And while Grave is shooting and is healing, what the heck just disappeared on my screen? And his healing factor is no joke as well. Very Jason Voorhees meets the Crow, meets Red Hood, Jason Todd, and Grave will have no issue killing him. He is not a Boy Scout here. All right, we're gonna keep it a buck. The fact that he gotta get close against somebody that got guns and an evil spirit that's floating around him, there's nothing really in his arsenal to work with. We do have a little bit of extra information as it relates to Fournette because he is in the database. So I'd like to visit the database just briefly. He's in the Nexus because he doesn't have a book yet. Or released yet. I don't believe. Maybe he does. Does he? I'll tell you what. Let's do this. Fournette. All right. So, in regards to him, yeah, he's just equipped with a double-sided axe and a great sword. There's no other special abilities or anything of that nature. We're going to keep it a buck, guys. That's a wrap. There's not really much else that can be done. He's cooked, y'all. Honestly. Not to be anticlimactic, but there's not a lot of back and forth. There's not a lot of matchup or explanations or anything like that. Dre went in though. Dre for sure went in. So with that, again, I don't imagine that Fournette is surviving grenade launchers and then the evil spirit when he gets in close and all of that. So the unfortunate truth is for Fournette, he's out of there, y'all. So we're gonna do one more on this lower tier side. And then we're gonna move over to. I hope I don't sound too low energy, y'all. I mean, I guess I kind of am. I'm a bit hungry, if I'm being transparent. But the next two matches that we'll talk about before we end the video today. Of course, we have our main ticket item, our main event, the big ticket, right? That's going to be your Heartline Menace versus Atridian. That's what we're going to spend a lot of time at, a lot of time. But the matchup that we're going to discuss now is Sledge versus Black Bat. So, big shout out to everybody that voted. Shout out to those two for participating. In regards to the popular vote, Sledge is going to. I just realized I didn't switch over the matchup, but Sledge, by 2 people, Sledge is on top in regards to that. And Black Bat trailing right behind him at 5. So, let's take a look. Again, much like all the previous matches, this is taking place at the Precipice. Fan vote and best explanation wins. So let's get it in. I hope you guys put some explanations. All right, so Sledge by Carrie Chug. Sledge can make full use of his flight. Use any of the grappling attachments. Any of the grapple attachments of battering rams, spear, claw, and grapple functions on electric charge rather than the cable. And then electric bolo and electric stilettos when in close range and after a good stunning. I'm gonna read all that again because I feel like I'm saying stuff, but I'm not comprehending. Hold on. Sledge can make full use of his flight, so he can fly. He is able to use any grapple attachments, a battering ram, spear, claw. Of battering ram? All right, I'm gonna assume he has grapple attachments which include a battering ram, spear, or claw, and grapple functions on electric charged items rather than a cable. So then, Spiff, what's going on, bro? We about to get to y'all's character in a second. This gonna be good. We're gonna talk about your character in just a second. I have thoughts. I look forward to hearing them, and I want to make sure that I have a good understanding of Heartline Menace. The rest of these matches, I knew who was going to win. I have an idea of who's going to win y'all's, but I want to make sure that I'm on the, I want to make sure I'm on the same page with you. So, all that to say, right? So, back to Carrie Chug's Sledge, right? So, Sledge can make full use of his flight, use any, maybe it's just how it's typed to throw me up. Use any of the grapple attachments of a battering ram, spear, claw, and grapple functions on electric charge rather than a cable. And then electric bolo and electric stilettos when in close range. And after a good stunning, can lay the beat down. Stunning can lay the beat down with boxing, Krav Maga, and pancration. He'll use all electric weaponry to come from all angles and stun enough to deliver the big spear launch to pin against the wall. Okay. Is that how it's said on here? Okay, let me read this one here. This might make a little more sense. So, alias Carl Eisenberg, base of operations Rockton, Rocky Mountains, hype, all that good stuff, freelance inventor. So he has a magnetic charge grapple. There we go. A magnetic charge grapple with attachments of spears, rock piercing, claw, battering ram, force shield. I am very curious to know. Where does he keep this spear? If this is like the base fit, I'm very curious. And the battering ram. So, if you could elaborate on that, if you're here, or if you're watching this later, just throw it in a comment. If you could elaborate. It's got heat, electricity absorption that deflects all inorganic weaponry. Flight by means of a graviton polarization. Electric stilettos, gas pellets, combat mastery in boxing, Krav Maga, and in pancration. Um, you know, the numbers don't really hold no bearing here. We don't really know, but a little bit about the character Carl Eisenberg. Carl Eisenberg left the life of crime to find an outlet for his passion for physical and tactical fulfillment, along with, lost my train of thought. Along with the thrill of taking to the air in majestic flight, he sees himself as more of a city bouncer than a vigilante, intervening wherever he finds someone's life, safety, or livelihood in jeopardy. Okay, we're going to move over to Black Bat now. I feel like we got a lot and not enough at the same time in regards to that, but we're gonna dive in a second here. So Black Bat, his powers are as follows. He's able to turn into mist, control wolves, claws sharp enough to cut through titanium, fast as a falling star, strong as 20 men, has hypnosis, solar healing. In his second form, he has regeneration with blood thirst, solar hearing, which I'm assuming is going to be sonar, silent roar, invulnerable, super strength, and flight. Let's go ahead and check the rest of the comments. What is solar hearing? Black Bat is also familiar with the precipice. Okay, hope you're man. I think Black Bat will be too fast for him, and his claws, after a couple strikes, will penetrate his force field, and after that, happily feast on him. Electric attacks getting dodged. Okay, so here's the thing. Let's reopen this. I need to know how strong the force field is and how big the force field is, right? Because if it extends out and we're talking about a whole kind of wraparound situation, maybe Black Bat doesn't get into that. But how does Sledge also attack? Now, if it's one of those things and it coats on him like Green Lantern, which I'm assuming based on this image is closer to what we're looking for, excuse me, I just need more. I think I need more. Right. Right. That's a valid question. Can he get through his gravity shield? Or can he hit through his gravity shield? Is that what you're saying? Or is it can he get through? But again, we need you guys to drop the details. And actually, is Sledge in the database? I want to say he is, because we might be able to get some additional information there. He is. So he's got an anti-gravity harness, force field that blocks all inorganic weaponry. So there's our answer. Yeah, like limitless from right. But it says just inorganic weaponry. So hypothetically, then organic weapons can, you know what I'm saying? So that blocks bullets. You know what I'm saying? That blocks your traditional knives and bullets and stuff like that. What's going on, Tavis? Um, so yeah, I think that's our in on how Blackback can overcome that. Um, but yeah, magnetic charge, grapple, and I just realized I'm not sharing that. Um, magnetic charge, grapple, electric bolo, arrow tip, bolt gun. So when we're talking Sledge right now versus Black Bat, we've already done Gago versus Judah's Lion King, and then Grave versus Fournette. Gago won and Grave won. So we're on Sledge versus Black Bat, and then we're going to go to our big ticket match that has a lot of comments on it. We're going to be discussing Heartline Menace versus um, Trillion Justice. That's going to be major. But yeah, in regards to this, what we have so far, if it's something that just is hell bent on only inorganic matter or inorganic strikes and stuff like that, I have no reason to believe that the claws aren't sharp enough. But then again, what are the semantics of that? What are the nuance of what inorganic can or can't pass through, right? I don't want to make the assumption that, oh, okay, well, it's only inorganic, so claws is going to rip through it, right? But then I'm not going to be so foolish to not think about the fact like the Alan Scott Green Lantern can get hurt by wood, right? You're the OG Green Lantern with a power ring, and your weakness is wood. Insane, right? So maybe that's what we're witnessing here, where it's like, yeah, shoot a nuke if you want, it's not going to work, but this guy's claws will, right? But yeah, being able to turn into mist, that's going to make it a lot harder for Sledge to attack. I don't know we know what he has in his arsenal, right? He's got electric bolos, he's got bolt guns, so on and so forth. But you have a character that's as fast as falling stars. He has hypnosis, he has solar healing. His second form, he has regeneration. It's just not enough here. I got to give it to Black Bat personally. The claws are definitely getting them through it then. And is his weapons fast enough to hit BB? Right. And no. They literally can't. And even if they do get to a point where he's able to hit him and hurt him temporarily, he's going to turn into mist, right? Good luck catching him. Good luck actually doing some real harm to him. I imagine a Mortal Kombat fatality almost, where he turns into mist, goes inside of this fool, pause, you know what I'm saying? Goes inside of him and pops out like, which fatality was that? Was it Shang Tsung, where he turns into Kintaro and then rips out of a person? Like, it's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that it's going to go all out and be that kind of gruesome and all that other stuff, but there's just nothing much in the arsenal. Let's see. What else do we have here? What is solar hearing? Okay, he did mean sonar. Can he turn the mist, go into his mouth, and take solid form again? I wish I knew for certain. Now, if he can't, cool, right? Because now, honestly, now the argument can be made that if he turns into mist, then no, he would not be able to do that because the force shield would keep him out. But again, he's got the claws. He's the strongest 20 men. He's also got He's got a secondary form which gives him additional super strength. He has a silent roar, which I'm assuming is like a high pitch, kind of high frequency situation that you ordinarily wouldn't be able to hear, but it's probably piercing all the same. There's not a lot, but that hypnosis is going to be a problem. Again, so when we're doing these matches, because obviously we're asking questions, right? And I know everybody can't be available all the time for when we're doing lives, especially if I'm just going to pop on here and be live randomly discussing the characters. But it's very important for you guys to actually drop what the characters can and can't do, how they are, how they operate, all that good stuff. So yeah, so it's a little difficult to navigate if there's no explanations for the characters. So long and short of it, because I'm beating around the bush here. I mean, Mist is organic, right? But you know how, and we'll discuss that in the next matchup, right? We can, what is, concepts in one universe, right, might be different, right? So you can make the argument, oh, I'm talking about flesh and blood can break through, right, but not, you know, something that's not a solid can't break through. You know what I'm saying? Is essentially what I was getting at. But no, I'm absolutely with you. But yeah, Black Bat I think takes the cake in this matchup. He has plenty enough moves in his arsenal. I imagine that if it got serious in any capacity, he would just use hypnosis and keep it pushing. So, and then he's got not home field advantage, but he has familiarity because apparently there is a crossover situation to where he has been exposed to, been to, or seen the precipice. So whatever that world holds, he has some sort of a experience with that. Um, he's fast enough to dodge lightning strikes as seen in an actual page here. So yeah, again, between being provided more information and then just between the two bits of information being a little bit more impressive for Black Bat, we're going to go Black Bat for this one. And we're going to stop beating around the bush because we got, I'm not going to say a real matchup because all these matches were real matchups, but let's just keep it a buck. The only one that had a good bit of conversation, a good bit of back and forth, deep dives into the characters. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but there was 87 comments on there, so that one is definitely going to take the cake here. So yeah, so right now our current matchup winners, we have Grave won his match, Black Bat won his match, Gago won his match, and we did talk about the fact that Blitz dropped out. So in that regard, Gaia moves forward no diff. So on my end, the why I'm looking away and doing all this, I had this right in front of one of my monitors. It probably would be better if I moved the tab over here. But yeah, anyway, so I'm updating the brackets now. So next week, in the next couple days or so, the matchups will be the Kaiser versus Omen, Bolt versus Matrix, and during that same live, we'll discuss Hurricane versus Solar. And then what we'll end up doing is going into the next match. So whoever wins Heartline versus Heartline and Atrinian, whoever wins there will face off against Gago. Whoever wins between Hurricane and Solar will face off against Gaia. And then we have our matchup for the low tier characters. It's going to be Grave versus Black Bat next week. So it'll be the same days that those go up. So be on the lookout for that. So anyway, the main event, the big match, the main one that we have been looking forward to. Again, 88 comments. So we're gonna go through each of these. Okay, so bear with us. This is gonna be, again, we skated past the previous matches. We skated past those. Breeze, right? Because it wasn't a lot of comments. It wasn't a lot of explanation. It wasn't a lot to go off of with those. Let's get it in, y'all. I've been rambling long enough. So right now, in true Atridian star-crossed fashion, man, this guy stays with the popular vote, man. 21 versus 16. The people like Atridian more, and they're more familiar, I think, probably. So we have a lot to go over with these characters, so strap in. I apologize for the low energy right now, but we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it. Damn, I'm tired. I ain't going to hold up. So, the character we're talking about now is Spiff Nation's Heartline Menace. What can he do? He has a goo form. He's able to turn into liquid ink to dodge, slide, and reform mid-fight. Nearly untouchable in this form. He has an Annihilation Blast, massive chaos-fueled energy beam, destroys terrain, and causes glitch fallout. Spiff, if you're here, if you could dive a little bit into what glitch fallout is for myself and the people that are watching, to give us a little bit more understanding of that, but still something that's strong enough to destroy terrain. Like, yeah, that's hey. And I think I saw a comment talking about how he was able to potentially destroy a planet with this technique as well. So, but yeah, if you could dive into what glitch fallout is for me, if you have a moment. Next up, we have panel rush, speedster with frame shipping movement and after image confusion. Fourth wall freakout is able to interact and really quick with the name like panel rush, and skipping movement and stuff like that. With frame skipping, it reminds me of the guy from maybe the old guy from Jujutsu Kaisen, right? The older guy that there was. I'm thinking about the Shibuya arc. His name escapes me, but I'm pretty sure he's related to Toji in them. Heath Slick was moving out of frame, right? Is that what he was doing? But regardless, I think of like Orale or Raleigh, however you say it, from Doctor Slump and Dragon Ball and all of that, where she's able to step outside of her manga panels and stuff. I imagine that, but correct me if I'm wrong if we're talking about frame skipping. So then we have fourth wall freakout. Interacts with the audience in reality, pulls gags or weapons from other stories. So, like, I immediately think of low hanging fruit, the mask. I think of Spider Ham, right? I think of those characters that's like, I'm literally pulling stuff out of nowhere. Bugs Bunny, that type of situation. We have Pocket Mayhem, reaches into a glitchy back portal to pull unpredictable weapons and objects. So wait. So, like, what is this, like, twofold that he's able to pull stuff? You know what? So I'm assuming fourth wall freak out. He can actually he's pulling stuff from other stories, and he can choose. Whereas pocket mayhem is just the randomized the random gun box from Black Ops, right? Whatever you get, that's it. Yeah, but he got his arm cut off. Skipping, mask, slapstick, Bugs Bunny. Yeah, fair enough. Um, Yeah, he did. Oh, you talking about the JJK guy? Yeah, yeah, slick. Spiff Nation, yeah, he's like Kid Buu with his energy blast can take out a planet. It causes glitches and makes that area unusable. You can think of it like a video game where you don't know what's going on and you're not fully in control. Okay, okay. Those are characters he reminds of. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I agree. We got Momentum Titan. Once running, becomes nearly unstoppable. The faster he moves, the harder he hits. Okay, on some Juggernaut type stuff for sure. Shape shifting. Body stretches, grows. Body stretches. He can grow weapons, transform mid combat like a living cartoon. Ooh, this guy has a problem. Okay. Superhuman stamina. Never tires. Gets stronger the more pain he takes. And then ultimate. Panel Flood opens a giant glitch portal, unleashing multiple chaotic versions of himself for a swarm assault. Hmm. You know, this gives me. I immediately think about and rock with me for a second, y'all. Yeah, Mr. Impossible Man meets Kid Buu meets Looney Tunes. Yeah, yeah. I immediately thought about Sun Wukong, right? Where each of his hairs, um, he can clone himself essentially. He can transform those hairs into himself, and then those clones can make clones. You know what I'm saying? And so with this panel flood, I think about that where you make a glitch portal that unleashes multiple chaotic versions of himself that I can only imagine can also make unlimited versions. You know what I mean? Like unleash multiple chaotic versions of himself. So that's tough. That's tough. So we're gonna move from him really quick. Heartline Menace, Biff says, the Heartline Menace has the speed comparable to people like the Flash. And when he builds up momentum, he's like, yep, there we go, like Juggernaut, and becomes unstoppable. He has an energy blast that can charge up and is powerful enough to wipe out a planet like Kid Buu, right? There we go. And he's chaotic in nature and can break the fourth wall like the mask. Okay. So all these are in the comics as examples. Okay, bet. I thought I was cooking. They were right here the whole time. He can also morph his body into a variety of things like weapons or even expand parts of his body. He can turn himself into goo in order to evade or to gain a position and then reform himself for an uppercut. I like that. The thing that makes the Menace so dangerous is that he doesn't play by the rules like other characters do. The way I could break it down is characters like Dr. Manhattan are powerful within the realm of the story, but outside of the story, they're merely just characters. The Heartline Menace can break the fourth wall and play on Toon Force / Toon Logic. Okay, we're getting an explanation here. I can see a scene in my head where the fight begins. Heartline Menace will build up momentum. It would be hard to take down and rush Atridian and turn into goo and then reform for an uppercut, sending him flying. And then the Heartline Menace would charge up an energy blast, powerful enough to take out a planet, and shoot it at him directly in the chest. And towards the end of the battle, you see the Heartline Menace laying on his stomach, kicking his feet, and playing with Atridian's toy and Heartline Menace toy, making them fight each other, and then running off because his mom called him for dinner on some Toy Story type stuff. That is such a kind of interesting concept, right? Because he sits so outside of what we consider reality as it relates to these abilities. We start talking about Toon Force and stuff like that. So, okay, I can see the comedic aspect. I can see that. Okay. I can dig that. All right. So, we have Atridian Justice here. So let's dive into what he's got. Right. So Atridian was bestowed the power of the Sword of Justice, which I do know the characters. I'm really just reading this for the sake of anybody that's watching that does not know. Um, so we'll dive more into what Atridian can do in a second too, and my assumptions about a couple items on here as well. Um, so Atridian was bestowed the power of the Sword of Justice, which is the celestial embodiment of justice and light. The sword is connected to the energies of justice across all universes, multiverses, dimensions, and timelines, giving the Sword of Justice and its Ultra Sword infinite and unstoppable power. Atridian Justice, the Ultra Sword, has vast immense strength, extreme durability and density, interstellar flight, and light speed reflexes / reaction time. Super senses, laser vision, sight, and hearing, and is a cosmic tracker. He can create and control magical cosmic lightning and shoot it from anywhere around his body, around him, not just his hands. He can use it to heal and create shields and do other things. He also has the abilities and the knowledge of the past Ultra Swords, so immeasurable strength from the first, the magical lightning of Niz, the genius intellect of Sky, and the universal combat and war skills of Dox. Atridia has the ability to share the powers of deceased knights with those deemed righteous and worthy. Atridian can create the power of the blue flame of justice, which he can use to forgive anyone that has been possessed by astral wolves. Due to that being not being in control of their actions, Atridian also conjures the blade of justice, uh, different forms with each bearer, under extreme circumstances to help defeat any enemy with one strike. Carla votes Heartline Menace. He's like a badass, chaotic, cosmic kid who thinks the universe are ants. He's not evil. He just plays too much, and it seems destructive. Absolutely. Ralph says Atridian Justice, being the ultra sword of justice, would use his billions of years of combat training from Dox and his own tactical training and his light and hyperspeed to feel the attack before. I'm so popular when I'm doing stuff. Sorry. All right. And his own tactical training and his light and hyperspeed to feel the attack before the blast can hit him. Super cosmic senses. Then, moving at the speed of light out of the way, then counter his attack by using his supervision to access Menace's weak spots or weak points. Then, using a strategic tactical strike, using his magical cosmic lightning, would send enough lightning power to destroy planets into Menace's orifices, mouth, nose, and ears, into his entire body, blasting Menace to pieces from the inside. Um. Hold on. I have another tab open as well. I need to look at this really quick. With shapeshifting and the goo form. And the fact, and panel rush, right? He's somewhat of a speedster. I don't imagine him getting hit by lightning, right? I imagine this character moves faster than light casually. So I don't think that's going to work, taking into account what I've read so far. We're going to continue reading. And again, Spiff, if you could dive into, um, levels of speed, right? More comparisons, stuff like that. Again, both of these characters are moving faster than light speed, in my opinion, easily, very casually. But what are those upper reaches, right? Are we talking about somebody that has, infinite to irrelevant speed, just massively faster than light? Breaks the concept of it altogether. I know we use an example as Flash, right? But what level? What level of that? Because again, if we're talking about comparability to Flash or comparable to what Flash can do, then yeah, I don't imagine cosmic lightning is going to actually hit him in any capacity. Even if he does get hit, I doubt it'll really hurt Menace due to the nature of what he is. I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree with that because yeah, you're talking about a character that's the mask. You know what I mean? Like in all those other characters that we've compared him to. Um, this is tough. Let's see what the rest of the comments are. I don't wanna speak prematurely, but I think this is pretty cut and dry. But let's dive back into it to give a fair shot here. Nathan says, I have to take the fourth wall breaker Heartline Menace because simply put, justice energy doesn't exist everywhere, especially if the character breaks the fourth wall. Like I think that alone kind of sums up this battle. Yes, slick. Um I did see some of this back and forth. We'll go over it really quick. Justice is the universal force that connects every universe, multiverse, dimension, timeline, alternate timeline, and binds all of existence in any plane of existence, especially since Menace doesn't play by the rules, and that is evil. So as long as any kind of evil exists, so does justice. Um, Brief moment. All right. So I see that there ended up being a conversation about this in regards to that. Of course, and I think me and Nathan are somewhat on the same page here. I will never try to tell anybody what to do in their stories, their universes, the multiverse, omniverse, all the stuff they got going on. And yes, we could say that certain things don't work when you talk about it in an indie battle kind of setting. But one of the things that I like to attempt to do as best as possible is at the very least equalize, right? So how do we rectify the existence of this justice energy as a whole within the confines of what we have going on here and not screw up what we have going on in what Heartline Menace is able to do, so on and so forth. From my understanding of what Ralph has been trying to say about justice energy, and from what I'm gathering from the books, from his books, is that the first things in existence in verse for him is justice, the embodiment of justice, almost as if it's God itself. Not saying that it's God, again, Ralph, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was good and evil. Those are the only things that existed in verse, and then everything started to come into existence from there. And so maybe in a way, right, those concepts exist everywhere, right? Um, they are somewhat like a Phoenix Force type situation where it's just like in some shape, form, or fashion, there is justice. In some shape, form, or fashion, there is evil. So that concept and the energy that emanates off of said concept, much like in eternity, not all of us have a character specifically for eternity, right? But we can always assume that there is a forever, right? An ongoing whatever in regards to these universes and stuff like that. So I think I'm gathering that that's what is going on. So this eternal embodiment of justice, much like the Phoenix Force, that just exists in some shape, form, or fashion throughout the entirety of the multiverse, does exist. So for the sake of this, we'll equalize it and say that maybe it's not God, right? But it is an essential part of the multiverse and dimensions and timelines and so on and so forth. Does this change the fact that he's fighting against somebody that sits outside of all of that? No, no, not really. Because again, this thing still operates within the confines of what we would say space time or reality, right? I would say like this is a thing that exists after the Big Bang, but Heartline Menace can exist or has existed or can operate even outside and before that, right? So I feel like again, long and short of it is somebody that kind of you're still in the confines of, and again, this was a long paragraph that we have here, and I'll reshare my screen here now that my little tangent is over. But you're going against a Toon Force character. Um, a lot of this stuff kind of gets thrown out of the window, essentially. Let me read the comments here. So, oh goodness, I just realized if you guys, yeah, can I put this on the screen? I don't know. Can I put it on the screen? Hold on, y'all. I sure can. So Dre says, I'm seeing Daffy Duck get shot in the face with a double barrel shotgun and tank it. Or Wile E. Coyote gets struck by lightning and eat it. The universe blew up on Coyote and he was still there holding the sun. I just don't know about this. Yeah, no, absolutely. there's no real arguing with this. It's he's kind of cooked, y'all. What if the sword of justice scales? Hold on, maybe I'm reading it wrong. What if the sword of justice scales up scales up to what it feels is justice? It's not based off the Trinian's mind or opinions. So what if the sword of justice believes one thing and Trinian thinks another? Oh, I see. So here's the interesting thing again from the stories from what I'm gathering, right? So the sword of justice is its own being, right? And it lends its power to its Ultra Swords, but gives full autonomy to a Tritian, whereas a Tritian then is able to give this vestige of power to other beings, and that's why you have in I think it was issue 1, where he kind of gives some of these powers to his family members and friends, and then they all kind of operate, but like the hierarchy is like the Sword of Justice itself, the Ultra Sword, and then the rest of the folks that are able to harness this power. So I know in issue 2 or in the I don't want to say reboot, one shot. In one of them, like he was unsure of what he was doing or what he needed to do, so on and so forth. But that didn't like dampen any of the powers. Now, what I will say, the only move that directly connects to his usage of this is being able to wield the blade itself. But again, I think one of you guys mentioned Heartline Menace isn't evil. So utilizing the Sword of Justice and all of the energy that it pulls in from the different timelines, dimensions, universes, and all this other stuff wouldn't affect him because that's specifically like a last ditch effort move to eradicate evil. And even in the sole function of this move, it hasn't worked because there's still Master Evil. So we're talking about a being that transcends even that. Again, this is pretty clear cut, but I do want to kind of respect all the comments and stuff that we have. So we haven't, to answer your question, I don't think we've seen an instance where there's a disagreement per se, but because he has full autonomy over the abilities that he has, it doesn't affect that at all, if that makes sense. Next up, I see. Bear with me, y'all. What if this? We just went over that. Heartline Menace has a mom, which means he was born. So with was born, it can be killed. Okay. Okay. Noted. That kind of. Again, we're still talking about characters that are just right. But okay, so he can be killed, but he's not evil. So the strongest move in Atrinian's arsenal is kind of, useless in this case, because that's something that would specifically affect things that are evil. So Spiff says, Dre, I used it more of like a joke, but the way the Heartline Menace was created is he was part of Ultimate. I'm mad that the little design thing is in the way. Part of the Ultimate Heartline Menace. which is the heart that keeps the Heartline Comics universe alive. He's just one part of the Ultimate version. And him, along with other versions, gets sent out into the Omniverse to test out people's abilities. So, okay. So, him playing with the action figures and all that other stuff. Hold on just a second, yo. I'm live. Go play. Have fun.
Your niece and nephew would like to say hi, I'm sure.
Oh, hi, guys. Hey, guys. Miss Joe.
Just your niece.
Okay. See you guys in a little bit.
The other one around.
Gotcha.
All right, go play. I'm going busy.
I'm almost done. All right. So I see. So even in your explanation earlier with the kind of fun situation with that head princess, that was just kind of being funny with, hey, I can do all of this. I wasn't born of anything. He's not anything of our comprehension. I think we can all agree on that from what we're gathering. He exists beyond human comprehension and concept. A Trinity and the Sword are one and think the same. So, okay. So, okay, Ralph. So, just to make sure then. So, the Sword of Justice is its own entity. It gives the Ultra Sword the powers. But, gotta say hi to the kiddies. Yeah, facts. So, it gives him the abilities, but it will never essentially lead him astray. So he will always have an understanding of what the mission is specifically for his connection, right? So I got thrown off, sorry. So Sword of Justice is his own entity, his own thoughts and all this other stuff, but it will continue to guide him subconsciously, or that line threw me off. So help me understand it a little better, Ralph. Because I thought the Sword of Justice was his own entity. He gets his power from the Sword of Justice, so he's able to wield the energy of the Sword of Justice, but also wield it at the same time. Not that they were kind of one. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Help me out with that. If you could elaborate a little bit more. Dre says, yeah, but it's its own universal being. So what if he sees justice as point A, but a Trinian disagrees? How does he pull justice energy if the sword doesn't feel that justice is present? I see. So that's a Ralph question. That's for sure a Ralph question. Because again, I feel like it's just one of those. I'm trying to think of it in context. I give an example, but it is but a united, right? So it's one of those things, then, Ralph. Let me ask this. I ask this cautiously, right? I think I might have seen an example in the comments here as I'm trying to figure this out. But if somebody is robbing somebody at necessity to feed their family, who's the bad guy? You know what I'm saying? Would he try to? Might be a poor example. Two people were fighting over the last bit of food, and they're about to kill one another. You know what I'm saying? Who does the Sword of Justice deem right? Who's wrong? Right. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, the Sword of Justice, I believe, is probably the omnipotent situation. But it's one of those kind of morality questions that we run into more than anything that I'm seeing here. And when you start talking about these matchups and stuff, this gray area is where the problem is going to lie. I guess I'm not really too concerned about whether there's going to be a conflict of interest, I guess. But what is in the argument? Me personally, what's in his arsenal that's going to hurt this being really? Because most of the attacks are specifically for things that are evil, right? A man steals a loaf of bread to feed his family. Right. What's right? What's wrong? Right. Say the endless or cancer verse, justice is not present in those realms. Right. So it's yeah. And so and that's why I prefaced at the beginning, right, where there's that gray area, but like I think what's happening in verse, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ralph, but it feels like the sword of justice is kind of that is essentially God in a sense, right? And so justice kind of extends to just all things that are good, hope, right? Again, hope, justice, all that good stuff, right? Joy, all that stuff. And if there's any semblance of that, something that allows people to smile and feel good and all this other stuff, hit the comments. Oh yeah. I got you for sure. We were going because it was interesting to see the different views. Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah. So let us know. But yeah, back to the comments. Nathan, I get what you're saying, but what I say, justice is universal. It is. Those aliens, without even knowing it, are either good. Okay, so they okay. So that kind of is on what we were going with there. Can we see the did it pop back up on the screen for you guys? Nope. Here we go. So okay, so yeah, that's essentially that. So moving on, Heartline is a Toon Force character. Yep. No, a Trinian can attack whoever. They didn't have to be evil. Well, it's not. Let me clarify in when I said that. In regards to things like the blue flame, or even the kind of ultimate move of the Sword of Justice when he's wielding it and he's able to do that ultimate move. I think of it like the Spirit Bomb, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, right? Like the Spirit Bomb, where it's like, hey, if you're evil, you're absolutely getting devastated by it. Like you're not going to survive this. But like if you're good, like it could potentially kind of bounce off. Like it's like, hey, it's not going to kill them because they're not an evil person, right? So correct me if I'm wrong there. Even if the robbery was righteous, they still have to pay for their crime. So like, what is the? See, that's the nuance that I hope you do get the opportunity to, guys. That you get to explore. Because yeah, that's a really philosophical sort of conversation or story beat that you have the opportunity to explore, right? Because if the robbery is righteous, right? Is it his crime to pay for? Is it the fault of those that have the opportunity to make sure he didn't have to do that in the first place, right? So, yeah, I would like to know more. Not even necessarily know more for the sake of this, but like if the person who is the judge in your universe, I think is the real question. Is it God or is it the Sword of Justice? Because now we have to make the case of does the Sword of Justice kind of Super Saiyan move or fatally? Okay, but yeah, who is the ultimate judge in your universe? Because again, I like to try to equalize things as best as possible. So if it is God, then it's like okay, then we have a general kind of hallmark in regards to what we can situate as good and evil. But if it's the Sword of Justice, now that's a whole new kind of concept that needs a little bit more explanation, if you don't mind. Atrinian has cosmic light, hyperspeed. Okay, yeah. We did read that. Atrinian also has billions of years of training, which again, I will retort cautiously, right? It's not necessarily him with the training, but the beings that were previous Ultra Swords that he has access to. And so I have a question, well, not necessarily a question in regards to that. I'm imagining a situation sort of like, I think about My Hero Academia with this, with these previous Ultra Swords, or even Avatar The Last Airbender, with the previous avatars that could assist him in his journey and tell him what to look out for and kind of help him along the ways of his training. But does he actually have their training? Does he actually have their training? All right. So then, if there is God, then all right. So, is it God's justice that he's upholding, or is it the Sword of Justice own version of justice? If that makes sense. I do see a comment from Dre here. Let me get down to that really quick. I do see negative. Hope and justice are two different things. Fair. Hope is the fulfillment of something better without knowing if it could ever be, while justice is an aspect of retribution and redemption. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Textbook definitions. But always got to trust but verify is the name of the game. But no, those exactly, though. I absolutely agree. The Sword of Justice should have an opposite in injustice. One can't exist without the other. It is a cosmic scale. And in the story, I'm pretty sure that's what the Master Evil, or the Master of Evil is. And so that's why I was wondering if they were in universe stand-ins for, like, God and Lucifer and so on and so forth, right? Because we haven't necessarily had mention of them. Um, they exist together. God is ultimate, and then sort of justice is justice. So, and so again, semantics, just to like absolutely clarify, does the sort of justice make its own rules on what it considers something to be justice? Evil and good is the morality of man. Judgment and justice are two different things. Yes, people have things to one shot evil, but why shouldn't it be something to one shot good? That's why yin and yang exists as a balance. Not all evil can't be destroyed with one shot, just like good cannot be vanquished with one shot. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, but yeah, again, I guess we're just trying to figure out exactly where the power comes from. I think is what I'm trying to figure out, and trying to understand the energy that he's pouring in, because I know there was a lot of back and forth in regards to how the power works, and so that's why we're stagnating here. Is just trying to clarify, make sure we're all on one accord, because when I ultimately come up with my verdict, I want to make sure that I fully understand where Ralph is coming from with his character, because I would hate to misinterpret and that be a point of contention as to why the character lost. Um, so yeah, that's and we've actually I thought we reached the end of it. So yeah, obviously, of course, in real world we have these definitions. We know what we have going on with that, but in the context of people's stories, um, people can mean something completely different with um, what they mean. Um, we read in one story somebody used X-rays to heal people, right? We know X-rays, we're using that to kind of see into things, not necessarily heal people with it, but in the context of this story, that's how their X-ray move or beams worked, right? And so again, just to get the clear definition for what he's trying to convey, I want to make sure that we're on the same page. Um, Now he says justice is universal. Now he's able to analyze his enemy before his tactical attack. Justice is the universal force that connects everything in the universe. I feel like we read that already. Or maybe he was repeating himself here. So a couple of things, the irony of the characters. So Tavis says a couple of things. The irony of the characters trying to break the fourth wall as a power is that they're not truly doing so. It's still a narrative device, yeah, controlled by the writer, the puppet master behind the scenes. These characters are merely playing out the story as written. Their characters and awareness still bound by the author's intent. So since this is a battle with two creators, that means there are two authors who have a different view on how they want the battle/story to play. They're conflicting each other, and I think that possibly cancels out Menace's fourth wall abilities. Second, the Sword of Justice, I think, won't be able to do anything to harm Menace, which I think we're on the same page with that. I think that's what I was alluding to a second ago as well. Because the nature of what he is, Menace is an evil in nature, chaotic, yes, but not evil. So the question is, does the Tridian have anything in his power set to hurt Menace, right? Terrence Brand said Menace has that Toon Force ability. I'm sorry, that's hard to beat. So that's just like if Sybil goes up against Bugs Buddy or the Mask. So a lot of kind of repeating concepts and arguments here. We'll go through a couple more. Chaos and destruction, when used for ill-advised purposes like rules, is evil. The chaos or destruction, which again now it feels like we're this isn't necessarily a straw man argument per se, right? But I see that we are kind of getting away from the battle. Thank you. From downtown here. From the battle, right? I don't think anything was said about Heartline Menace doing anything for ill purposes or good purpose or anything of that nature. I don't think we get that much context of the character to say that, right? Now, maybe, let me zoom in a little bit. Fun facts, the Heartline Menace doesn't speak. He communicates with last growl. Heartline Menace dodges, speaks to, yeah. So even with the little bit of information that we do have, extra information that we do have. It's not anything that's that tells us that he is evil or doing something destructive for ill-advised purposes, stuff like that. So, with that being said, I think I'm gonna skip past this bit of dialogue here, this argument back and forth in regards to that, because we don't know. We don't know that about Heartline Menace to make that judgment call there. Okay, fair argument. He says in the statute it doesn't mention any of that, so he's in regards to the Toon Force and stuff like that. Hold on, let's go. Well, let's read that here. I just did a Trinity of Justice being the Ultra Sword of Justice would use his billions of years of combat and his own tactical training to feel the attack before the blast can hit him with his super cosmic senses, then move at the light speed out of the way and counters attack by using super vision to access Menace's weak points. We did read this. I don't think that will hurt him, right, because he has Toon abilities. Okay, so we're arguing the semantics of whether or not it's actually Toon Force. So no, it doesn't say Toon Force on the card, but based on the abilities, it is totally implied based on the fourth wall breakout type moves, the pocket mayhem, those two alone, I think, and panel flood. I'm trying to think what else. He also got, between those, being able to pull something out of nothing like that kind of implies that he's able to tap into Toon Force-esque abilities, right? So, no, doesn't specifically say it, but he is pulling moves out just like a Toon Force character would. So, that argument, in my opinion, is somewhat not debunked, but a mooted point. Question: Can a Tridian do? What can a Tridian do to hurt Heartline? And that's where we're stuck, right? Bugs in the Mask do it all the time. Yep. Ralph said a Tridian is self-sustaining. Is that on his sheet? I forget. I think that's another one of those. It can be implied because he gets the powers from the Sword of Justice, and the Sword of Justice is almost this. Well, apparently, what he said in the comments here, like a rung below God, right? So he will be constantly sustained by the powers of that. So no, it's not something that's explicitly stated, but again, Sword of Justice is a separate entity that gives a Tridian powers. So I haven't seen anything where he's getting tired or worn out or anything like that. We haven't seen that, right? That's not in any of the books, right? Yeah. So yeah, but again, we're not confined to the books. These are the full versions of the characters that we're doing. So no, I don't see anything that, based on how the sword works and based on how he gets his powers, there's nothing that specifically says that he's not self-sustaining. But sounds like Heartline can manipulate the very fabric of his existence. Yeah, because again, he's able to pull stuff. So hypothetically, right, and we're talking around the point. Let's keep it a buck. We're almost at an hour and a half. If he's able to pull stuff from any universe,
Where are you going?
he could pull the Ultimate Nullifier from Marvel and call it a day.
I wasn't talking to you.
Game over. That nullifies anything. He'd call the Miracle Machine from DC and say, I wish for this to be done. He can pull the Dragon Balls out of nowhere. He can pull the Death Note and utilize the eyes and say, go ahead and get Rick Miranda out of here, right? So there's too much in Heartline Menace's arsenal. There's too much in his arsenal. I still think Heartline Menace could just manifest his weakness. Yeah. So again, can this happen in an actual book? Hell no. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way we can have him pull the Dragon Balls and say, get this man out of here. Right? No. Right. But in the context of these battles where, for all intents and purposes, there's no real rules. There's no real rules in this tournament matchup, how we have it set up. This isn't Nexus. This isn't Reckoning. So if we're going to say anything goes, the fullness of each character, then the fullness of each character is at play here. So even if physically we have more information per se in regards to Atridian, he's able to pull energy from all of these infinite multiverses and timelines and so on and so forth. We have a character that can literally just reach into his bag and pull out the sword of justice and block it. You know what I'm saying? And block that same energy with it. Right? So he is Toon Force is Toon Force, y'all. It's broken. Like there's nothing really there's no other way to kind of speak around it. Now, it does make it difficult for the rest of the matchups, but hey, you know what? I said drop the characters, y'all drop the characters, I can't get mad at it. So, in all actuality, in my opinion, this matchup goes to Heartline Menace. There's no, again, these aren't official matches, so nobody get mad or upset or anything like that. These aren't Nexus and Reckoning matches. It does say no outside help, which means Heartline Menace can't pull anything that isn't in the Heartline universe. Well, see, here's the thing: when we mean no outside help, what we mean is he can't then if we're gonna keep it in context, he can't call the Justice League in, right? He can't call in the Hope Breaker Army, right? But that's like so the difference, right? We have Spider-Ham from Spider-Verse. He can't call outside help, which means he can't call the other Spider-Man, but he can pull out his hammer out of his bag, right? So that's not anything that was inside of that verse. That means people. So just to clarify and actually pull from and keep things in context. So yeah, no. Because otherwise, if we're talking about bringing people in, then yeah, he could just summon freaking Darkseid, Thanos, Galactus, the one above all, eternity, just, you know what I'm saying? Like Molecule Man, and just like, come on. But we didn't bring that up. We brought up items. But again, even still, when we start talking about the semantics of anything that's in universe, these battles aren't taking place within anybody's set universe. It's taking place in a completely indie place created by Ahmad Kumasi called The Precipice. So it doesn't reside in anybody's universe. And so now, if I'm to be not necessarily petty, just extra maybe, who's to say what doesn't exist in this universe, right? If we say we're going to use the indie breakdown verse, then we know Resident Evil somehow takes place in it because we did a Resident Evil event, right? So semantics. But what we mean by no outside help is people. We mean no people. Because even still, he has an innate ability that summons more versions of himself, right? So that's like telling Naruto he can't use Shadow Clone Jutsu. That's an essential part of his thing. His no outside help would be the rest of Team 7, not an ability that he himself has. So, yeah. The Heartline Avengers is crazy. But yeah, this match right here had so many comments. Thank you. Thank you guys for putting what your characters would do, what they can do, everybody asking questions. This is what I want to see more of in these matches to come. I need people asking the right questions. I need them to talk heavy. Talk heavy about your characters. Get your fans in here to vote for your characters. Because, just because they're popular don't mean they're going to win. Atridian has got to be one of the most popular characters in this group. Because every time there's a popularity vote or anything, Atridian wins. Every time. This is his first loss in any capacity, right? Official match, he's never lost. Fun matches, he's never lost. Well, actually, there was one. So he but that was the we had to jump him. But in a 1v1, Atridian has never lost a match. But again, anyway, not to belabor report, side comments, side jargon, conversation over here. But yeah, vote for you fans, vote for the characters, have fun with it, have these conversations. Absolutely great battle. I want to see more conversations. I want to see you guys do like this. This is what when we're talking about exhibition matches, just random, just fun kind of situations. This is what we're talking about. Just drop your characters and be like, hey, I'm fighting you. My character's gonna beat your character because of X, Y, and Z. The end. And just converse. Have fun. And so hopefully this is a good example of what we're trying to do. In regards to the exhibition matches, obviously again between Nexus and Reckoning, we dive a little bit more in depth, right? We'll have the cards in front of us. Again, Nexus matches aren't too dissimilar from the exhibition matches. Just we plan on having like a ranking system and all this other stuff down the line. Win-loss ratios, the whole nine, right? So down the line. But this is what we mean. Have these conversations, talk heavy about your characters, let the people know what your character can do, the things that they've experienced, all this other wonderful stuff. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about it's Promo Sunday, right? Ideally, right? Atridia's got a book, y'all. Go check it out. Read, find out what all he is able to do in his story. Issue 3 is on the way, right? They just finished that up on Kickstarter. That's 4 books that's out. There's 1 and 2. There's the one shot, and then there's a third book that just dropped. So check that out, right? Spiff has got Hopebreaker. Go check that out, right? Go support these books. Get to know these characters so that when we come back and actually start doing these battles, continue to do these battles in the future, everybody can speak to the characters. They're like, well, I think, and I brought you up recently, Spiff, when we were talking about Hopebreaker versus Absolver. And you actually read the book. So you was like, hey, he's only used Vanquish on animals. And it was like, valid. So he's not as strong as we're assuming he is, right? He's not as fast as we assume he is. He got shot. He got stabbed with a metal pipe. He can't exist in multiple places at once if he's getting hit by bullets, right? So getting to know one another's characters is amazing. Taking that extra time to do so is beautiful. And like Ralph just said, it's fun. There's plenty of sharing, lots of collaboration, camaraderie that's coming from this. And it only kind of really helps solidify and deepen those relationships when you're actually taking time supporting, talking to each other about the characters, expressing what you enjoyed and loved about each of those stories. So anyway, y'all know I can go on for a whole nother hour rambling about that. But no, I appreciate you guys. This is amazing. I will be updating the brackets. I'll update the brackets accordingly. I'm not going to do individual posts of the winners per se. We'll just update the brackets. We'll go live. We'll talk about it. The overall winner, of course, we'll have the winner of the overall thing, but I'm not doing that for each of these matches like we did in the past. But yeah, so next live will probably be next weekend, and that will consist of Hurricane versus Solar, and then the Kaiser versus Omen. So really quick, Hurricane is by Prince Jackson. Solar is by Thad Williams, so be on the lookout for that. Then we have the Kaiser by Ben Wan versus Omen, which is another Spiff Nation character, so definitely check him out next week on that. And then we have Bolt by Roscoe Glinton and Matrix by BC Gladney. So check all that out. I'm trying to make sure I remember everybody's stuff off the dome, so if I get it wrong, forgive me. But those are the ones that we're going to be going over next week. There is no Gaia versus Blitz. Blitz dropped out of the tournament, so Gaia went ahead and moved ahead without a battle. And so whoever wins between Hurricane and Solar will fight Gaia, and then we'll continue accordingly from there. So anyway, that's it. So housekeeping again, promo Sunday, promo all day, Monday through Saturday. Please talk about your characters, share stuff. We want to learn more. We want to learn about what you guys got going on. So please feel free to share those things. Oh, my battery's about to die. So yeah, share all those things. Have fun throughout the week. Introduce to your characters some story concepts. And again, it's promo Sunday. So go crazy. Y'all got Kickstarters out there. You got new books out there. Y'all just got websites out there. Man, share your stuff. Share your stuff. Be proud of it. All day Sunday. Share. So yeah. Any other housekeeping things? The matchup between Amani and Merce is live on the midnightcomics.org, which you can get to via the Indie Breakdown website. I don't have a blog section on the Indie Breakdown website, so it just links to my blog post on Midnight Comics. So check how that matchup goes. So that's our Season 3 matchup. We are going to be announcing who's going to be a part of the Season 4 lineup. So some of you guys have messaged me. We're not announcing. I'll be sending links to those of you that replied to the message. I have my Google Sheet and all that other stuff, so I'll be sending you guys messages accordingly. So be on the lookout because interviews for season 4 will start soon, and then we'll repeat the whole thing again. So we'll try to get season 4, season 5 done for this year. We'll be trying to reopen the database. Here soon. So if you guys have characters that you're interested in dropping, have that in the pocket and have that ready, because once we open it up, we'll open it up for a limited time. We'll close it back. We do not have a time when we're going to be starting it back up. Oh, you won, Senator. You won. Your character had way more in their arsenal than Judah's Lion King. Your character won. Low diff. I think in the little bit of information that we were provided, he was able to destroy terrains and maybe like mountains, right? But your character is casually destroying planets, bro. You're talking about dark matter and energy and stuff like that. No contest. Is it Jago? Well, how do you? I don't know if I've been pronouncing that correctly. But yeah, so GG's on that. And again, next week you're going to be fighting against. You will be fighting against Heartline Menace. So when I make that post, when that match is getting ready to commence, when I make that post, it is imperative that you guys go back and forth and actually discuss, or rather, again, the best explanation is going to win, right? So how will you take into account the abilities that you know Heartline Menace can utilize and what your character can utilize, and how are they going to come out on top? Again, that best explanation wins. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in. Definitely check out indiebreakdown.com. You can check out all of our previous breakdowns, all of our previous interviews. Learn more. Got it. Noted. Learn about all those awesome characters and stuff like that in there. What else is on there? And then you can check out all of our previous versus matches. All the previous versus matches that we had in the group, all the classic matches and stuff like that are there. We'll probably be adding these on there as well for you guys to click on and see the posts and look at the comments and see how those conversations went, learn more about each other's characters and stuff. But yeah, I think that's about it. I don't have anything else. Check out indiebreakdown.com. And yeah, that's all I got. So yeah, thank you guys for helping us redefine power scaling in the indie world. More on the power stats coming soon. You can check out our previous video on our tier system that we'll be introducing soon. But yeah, thank you guys so much for helping us do that. And of course, remember, until next time, everybody, midnight is coming.
Bitch, I'm proud.